Hi guys, this is a Longplay review for James Bond 007, The Spy Who Loved Me, on the AMSTRAD CPC, released by Domark in 1990. Firstly, I had done a Longplay and review of this already many years ago on my channel, but had to delete it recently because of a copyright claim, so I'm redoing this, but without the copyright infringing movie soundtrack I added. So of course this is a movie license based on one of the most famous and popular Bond films of all time. Probably Roger Moore's finest during his long tenure as 007, although it appears they didn't secure or more likely pay for the license for his likeness on the box art because it looks nothing like poor old Rog. Now the film is memorable for Bond's Lotus Esprit S1 sports car, which was tricked out with the usual over-the-top Q gadgets, but most famously it can turn into a submarine, hence why Domark has based pretty much all the action in this game around it. Incidentally, the nickname for this vehicle was Wet Nelly, and the current owner of one of the three of them is Elon Musk, who paid just over £500,000 for it at an auction in 2013. Here's the back of the box art, and actually it's quite a nice big box game from Domark. Shame about the contents, but we'll come to that as we start up this long play now. Okay, so oh yeah, we're playing the 6128 128K version, which basically means there's music on the title screen and a couple of crappy sound effects. That is it. And here's the music. No loading screen, straight into a plain text like title screen. And we'll listen to the music for a little bit here. It sounds like they've tried to do like a funky swing version of the James Bond theme, and I hate it. I really don't like it. Now I am a big James Bond fan and James Bond nerd, and that's not getting in the way of me enjoying this music. I just don't think it's a very good version of the Bond theme. But at least they do have some version of the Bond theme in the game, even if it is on this crappy title screen. So this game was made by The Kremlin, who were an internal development team at Domark, and they rarely were given credits in games for their names, so I can't find out who the coders, graphics artist or musician were, sadly, but Kremlin were responsible for Super Space Invaders, RBI2 Baseball and Thunderjaws, so it may be the same team possibly behind those games, but I'd rather not speculate. If any of the people behind the game are watching this video, please let me know in the comments, because that has happened in the past quite a few times. Okay, so the story here is James Bond and Soviet agent Anya Amasova form an unlikely alliance in this most famous of Bond's escapades. Together, they must investigate the recent disappearance of two submarines, one Russian and one British. Microfilm evidence suggests that they have been stolen by the power-mad Carl Stromberg. You are dispatched to Sardinia to investigate Stromberg's plans at his underwater fortress Atlantis. To assist you in your mission, Q has provided his revolutionary submarine car, which when kitted out is armed to the teeth with a fantastic array of weaponry. So that's the story from the back of the box. And it also actually says at the end there, don't miss out on The Spy Who Loved Me, a programming tour de force. What, who are they kidding? Who are they really? Then, blimey, programming tour de force. That's what it literally says as the last thing on the back of the box. Anyway, so here we go, guys. This is level 1 of 5. There are 5 levels on the 8-bit versions and 8 levels on the 16-bit versions. So basically the Amstrad Speccy and Commodore 64 versions of the game, they are missing the non-vehicle levels of the 16-bit ones. So on the 16-bit there were 2 target shoot 'em up type levels and a puzzle level. Sadly missing here though. So Bond and Anya are in the Lotus here on level 1, and the Lotus hasn't been kitted out with all Q gadgets and weaponry, so no shooting of guns and missiles yet. And the manual tells us we're driving to a hotel against a time limit, which isn't actually true. We're actually driving to a jetty for a speedboat, so no hotel. And as you can see, guys, there's no time limit. So this is an easy introduction level that you can beat by driving very slowly, if you so wish to. And we need to collect the Q tokens on the way, which are those yellow things on the road that make that diddy noise as we pick them up. Obviously, don't crash into the scenery. We've got a damage counter in the bottom right there. And we need to collect as many of these Q tokens as possible, because we're going to need to use them on level 3, and more on that in a little bit. So I've just been very careful to avoid the puddles here, because it sends you spinning off in a direction. So if that happens, just go very, very slowly. Wait for the timer on the sliding, slipping motion there to just wear off, and then move off again. Now you can speed through this level at top speed if you really want to. Obviously you've got more higher chance of having a crash and spinning out, or going headfirst into an oncoming car. But essentially, guys, there's no bad guys on this level. There's no time limit. Just slowly get through as best you can. Collect as many of these yellow Q tokens as you can as well, and that's it. Now, there's supposed to be pedestrians in the road as well, according to the manual, but they're missing on the Amstrad version. It's the only version of the game that are missing sort of pedestrians on the road that sort of run away as you get close to them. So that's missing that. Okay, let's talk about what we're seeing so far. So I would say nice colourful graphics. Now the static screenshots on the back of the box, okay, well they were for like basically the 16-bit version. So let's talk about maybe screenshots you saw in magazines. It will probably look quite nice to you. Lovely colourful graphics. Although the Lotus does look like basically a rectangle, although it was kind of that kind of angular shape anyway in real life. But yeah, okay, because it's a top-down 2D racer, we could forgive that. Oh, here we are at the end of the level, actually. And it's a jetty we're arriving at for a speedboat. And again, colourful graphics again on this level, level 2. And yes, we're in the speedboat going to Atlantis, which is Stromberg's headquarters, for a meeting with Mr. Stromberg. But weirdly, here Stromberg's agents in their own speedboats attack us. We should see, there they are. Which is kind of odd, because we're off to meet Stromberg for the first time. For, you know, a meeting? So why would Stromberg bother to have a meeting with us if he already wanted to kill us? So this is Domark really stretching the license here, Finn, because at this point in the movie, Stromberg doesn't want Bond and Anya dead yet. He wants to kind of suss them out and see what they're up to. There we go. But the speedboat has a rocket launcher, because why not? But this is another pretty easy level, really. Take it slowly. There's a couple of dead ends, but follow the buoys bobbing in the water there as markers. So there's a hint there. Perhaps it means to move right. And yeah, that would have been a dead end. And you cannot reverse back down the screen, so that would have been certain loss of a speedboat and a life. So yeah, the sound effects are very, very limited. No sound effect for going over those speed jumps there. A noise for firing your missiles, a noise for the enemy boats, a noise for going into the buoys there, and a noise for the Q token. So like basically like 4 sound effects in total. I think that's probably it for the entire game, really. No music in game. I'd say the scrolling is okay. It's not the best frame rate in the world, but it's acceptable, I would say. And you really don't have to engage these boats anyway. You could just like basically just go straight past them and ignore them. Although that one did do a fair bit of damage to me, but we're right near the end of the level. But yeah, I think as you saw on the first level, guys, this is kind of basically a Spy Hunter ripoff. which in itself, Spy Hunter was ripping off James Bond, because in fact Spy Hunter was originally intended to be a Bond license, and here we are coming full circle. But we will see more Spy Hunter-iness very, very shortly on level 3, which we're just about to come to. I'm slowing down to pick up these Q tokens because we need a lot of them. We want to get through the next level as quickly as possible, otherwise it will go on forever. Which kind of does anyway. But yeah, this is the end of the level. We don't actually get to see Atlantis here, just... oh, bit of glitch in the sound effects there as it loads. But there we go. So... right, level 3. Now shut up a second because something will appear in a second or two here. There it is. A Q truck where you can buy various things. Lotus armor there. But really what we need there is the submarine, which is 150 Q tokens. And we only have 96. Once we have the submarine conversion, we can basically finish the level. But not before. Otherwise, it will just loop. So, yeah. So, level 3, which is actually called Scene 2 in the manual. But anyway, the manual tells us, having completed their meeting with Stromberg, Bond and Anya head back to their hotel. However, Stromberg's suspicions are aroused and he orders them killed. Again, if his suspicions have already been, have only just been roused, why did he try and kill us on the previous level? Anyway. And this is where, as I said, the Spy Hunter rip-off really goes into overdrive. The Lotus can now shoot missiles, but you can drive rather clumsily into the Q truck, as we saw there earlier. Rather than Spy Hunter, we had to gracefully get actually lined up a bit and go up a ramp into the truck. You can just literally just ram into the Q truck. Yeah, so yeah, in the Q truck you can purchase weapons and upgrades to the Lotus, which doesn't seem to do much, and is pretty much a waste of time and Q tokens. Similarly, you can get similar upgrades for the car when it goes underwater, which again is mostly pointless because there's pickups in the level really early on to get those kind of upgrades for free. So, as I said earlier, all you need here is the submarine conversion, which is a costly 150 Q tokens. Now, I think we're on 125 now because the Q token counter can only do it in double digits, not triple digits. Really, game? Can you not do triple digits there? So, yeah, basically, you'll have to drive around this level at least twice. It basically loops. It doesn't gracefully loop, though. It'll just sort of... the game will suddenly stop, and then you'll the screen will refresh and plonk you back at the start of the level. Which we're not far off doing, actually. There's a helicopter. And then once you have purchased the submarine upgrade, just reach the end of the level, which again is at this point coming up very shortly. And this becomes basically the longest level in the game, made even longer because often on the second loop through, which we just started now, see how it just refreshed and just bonks us back to the start of the level. The Q truck doesn't appear, rather annoyingly. Look, no Q truck. That's where it should have appeared. So we're actually stuck anyway doing 3 loop throughs of this. I don't think we had enough Q tokens anyway. It's 148 we're on now, so we didn't quite have enough anyway. But there's a bug there that on the second loop through the Q truck doesn't appear, and that's happened a few times to me. In fact, I think it's happened every time to me. I'm not sure that is a constant or not. Maybe it will sometimes appear in the second loop through. Who knows? But, yeah, as for the Spy Hunter ripoff, let's do a little checklist here. Do we have an overhead top-down 2D driving game? Check. Can the car shoot missiles and bullets? Check. Can you drive into a special truck for upgrades? Check. Is there a helicopter that attacks us? Check. We'll see it again shortly. Can you drive off a pier jetty and turn into an amphibious vehicle? Sort of. Now, in the other versions of the game, yes, they have a jetty or a pier to drive off that automatically turns you into an amphibious vehicle if you have the kit. On the Amstrad version, if you drive into the water, you immediately die and explode, even though you have the underwater conversion kit. Yikes! So, yeah, the Amstrad version is rather lacking compared to the others. And why the hell does Q need paying in Q tokens? I mean, has Bond annoyed him that much? And why does he value these Q tokens so much? And why are they strewn over the Sardinian road so much? Questions even a super secret agent can never answer, I think, here. And we talked about the bug of the Q truck not appearing. Some vehicles spawn to the far left of the screen, into the wall like there. We haven't seen it here yet. Oh, just destroyed the helicopter. Pretty easy to kill. And they instantly blow up. So, bad programming there. I'll point it out when it happens. It might have happened already and I just missed it. Looking at my notes here. Alright, we've just reached the end of the loop, the second loop. So now it starts us over on the third. And we'll just pray to God that the Q truck appears. There it is. Just drive into it like that. Blimey. Not very graceful. Let's purchase the submarine for 150. And we might as well use the rest of the tokens on upgrades for the sub. And now we've run out of Q tokens. And we can quit. And now we've got to go through all this level again, reach the end, and it will automatically put us in the sub on the next level. Okay, might as well talk about other versions here very quickly then, because we sort of mentioned this before, bits of this already, but let's get through it. Specky version. It seems to have a slightly more zoomed in view. Music on the title screen is identical and continues playing into the game, actually. But until you actually hit something that causes a sound effect, then the music stops. It has even more limited sound effects than the Amstrad version. And there's no noise when you pick up Q tokens. And I think I mentioned earlier, the first level actually has pedestrians that run out your way, which is kind of cool, actually. And the level layout is pretty much identical. But on level 3, which we're playing now, the Q truck appears a little later in. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier as well, to finish level 3, you have to take the turning to the jetty. So you'll have it marked on the road with like a road sign. But again, that doesn't happen on the Amstrad version. It plays about, the Specky version plays about the same speed and frame rate. And on level 4, actually, Stromberg's Atlantis is the last boss, but that's completely missing on the CPC version, which you will see very shortly. Commodore 64 version, level 1 has animated water, and has the same awful music, but throughout the level, but it's done on the SID chip, so maybe it's a little better. It also plays a touch faster, but even for the C64, it isn't the greatest frame rate, which is odd. But yeah, actually at the end of level 1 on it, you actually drive into a hut there, and it transforms you into the speedboat for level 2 without a disc or tape load, which is actually quite cool and very Spy Huntery as well. Level 2 has swimmers in the water you have to avoid, and there's some minor differences in the layout there. Again, level 3 on the Commodore version has a different layout. And there's much more vehicles attacking you, including a motorbike and sidecar, just like in the movie. With the Q truck, you actually have to keep it on the screen for as long as you want, i.e. keep collecting tokens until you have enough of the sub, which on that version is 75, and then go into the truck, so you can glitch the truck into staying on the screen as you run around collecting tokens to finish the level a lot quicker. And here we are on level 4. We're now still in the Lotus, but now we are underwater. I'll talk about the rest of the versions a little bit. So now we're heading to Atlantis, but underwater in our Lotus. In the movie, Bond is only checking it out, But here in the game, it looks like we're doing a full-on assault of it. I say that, but the Amstrad version is actually missing the Atlantis boss at the end, as mentioned earlier, and the level will just abruptly end. Also, the manual doesn't tell us what the pickups here are and what their letters signify. We saw some of like a few seconds ago. We just have to work it out for ourselves. So R is for laser, weirdly, unless the letters get mixed up. So the best thing to do is have the laser, because it will quickly dispatch like the little mini bosses here. Nice to see bubbles in the water. A little bit of animation there. We've got some animation on the seaweed, I suppose, on the left and the right of the screen there. There's mines in the water. I think L apparently repairs all our damage on the Lotus. Maybe L for Lotus. I don't know. But here's the boss of the level, and it's really easily done if you've got the laser. But I should warning, guys, bugs, bug alert. There are horrific game-breaking bugs on this level. Sometimes glitches happen with the sprites if they're overlapped. Sometimes the sprites for your bullets or laser don't appear, meaning you're completely defenseless. Or worse, as happened to me on my first attempt, the boss sprite moved off the side of the screen, causing graphical glitches in the side, then disappeared, never to appear again. So really appalling. But there we go. We're on to the final level now, guys. Level 5. And the manual tells us the US commander has orders to destroy Atlantis, even though Anya is still hostage. Bond is given 1 hour to rescue her. Using the specially modified wet bike flown in by Q, he must destroy its outer defences and enter Atlantis. Now that's odd and completely wrong. We apparently at the least already destroyed the outer defences of Atlantis in the previous level. Well, in the other versions of the game, that is. And by the looks of the boss on this level we will come up against, we'll be actually fighting the giant tanker, which, if you remember in the film, housed the stolen submarines or was the home for Stromberg's attempt at world domination, blah blah blah. So if that is going to be the final level and boss, we actually never get to see what happens after that, because the game will abruptly end and loop us back to level 1. So I've given a bit of a spoiler there, but that's what's going to happen very shortly. This level is a little bit more challenging because there's more sprites, they move a little bit faster and they attack in waves. As you might notice there, guys, sometimes my bullets that are supposed to go diagonally don't appear, like there, but then they do. It's like the game can't handle too many sprites on the screen at once or too much going on. And if I find that if I hammer down the fire button, that's when glitches and bugs happen. Although I'm firing away quite fast there. It's the previous level where that more commonly happens. So just tap the fire button if you don't want the game to basically crash. Good lord. I was talking about the... this is the final boss, basically, guys. Just quickly, the Amiga version, probably the best version of them all. What's interesting is that the Amstrad version follows the layout of the Amiga version the closest. But obviously, the Amiga and the Atari ST have 3 extra levels, which give a bit more variety to the game. 2 shoot-em-uppy levels and a puzzle level. And the Atari ST version is the same as the Amiga, but not as good music or sound effects. Quite interestingly though, the MS-DOS version of this game suffered really, really poor sales and high returns, so much so that the developers, Kremlin, returned the Spy Who Loved Me 3.5 floppy disks as blank disks in the office. So high was the return rate. But anyway, as you saw there, guys, we just defeated the final boss. That is the end of the game, and it loops back to level 1, so we're now just killing ourselves here just to get to back to the title screen and high score table if there is one. Reviews at the time, Amstrad Action reviewed this in the January 1991 issue, which is issue 64. They gave the graphics 78%, sound effects 59%, grab factor 64%, staying power 41%, and overall score of 52%. There we go. And they noted that the game was monotonous, and there isn't enough variety. So there we go, guys. In my view, utterly pants. Probably my least favourite of Domark's James Bond licensed games. I even prefer A View to a Kill to this one. Because there's such little effort put into the game. There isn't even basic text screens in between levels explaining what is going on and telling the story, which have been more than easy to do. And in terms of content, the Amstrad is the worst version, unfortunately, although it has the nicest looking graphics of the 8-bit versions. So my score overall, guys, is 5.5 out of 10. A really cheap and rushed production from Domark Software, but we've come to expect it from them, haven't we, guys? Shame, because the other Bond games are pretty decent. Oh well, goodbye.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho, out.